All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Today I'm going to be showing you how to build something that is extremely versatile. Dare I say, the most versatile workflow and AI agent setup that I have ever built inside of N8N. What makes this sort of workflow so valuable is that you can use it for so many different things. You can do it to research any topic that you want to on sites like Google or Bing or Amazon. You can use it to generate content ideas. You can use it to get updates on news alerts. So if you want to go out and keep up with the latest financial news or the latest AI news or anything, you can use it to do that. And then you can also use it to generate original content posts for your social media. And so the workflow I'm going to be showing you today is kind of broken up into two parts. The first part is a Google News scraper that's going to go and scrape news on a specific subject that I want to be seen as an expert at on LinkedIn. But this will work just as well for Twitter or X or anything else. And then the second part is the content generator. So we're going to take those news articles that we find on Google and we're going to put them through a process of several AI agents to come up with a completely unique piece of content. And then I'm going to show you how you can go out and you can generate an image for that content and post it to LinkedIn, and that you can do it all really quickly. Okay? So here's the general workflow. I've got this set up to run on a trigger every 24 hours. And I've kind of pinned the data in here just so that you guys can see all the steps and everything that I did in here. I won't bore you with having to build all this stuff out. I'll just show you the workflow. And then if you want the JSON, I always put the JSON down in the description so you can go download it and give it a test drive for yourself. Okay? We're going to start out with a trigger, and again, we're just going to run this every 24 hours. And the reason we do that is I want the latest news from Google, but I only need it every 24 hours. The next step is we need to go and we need to pull and do a search of Google News. Now, there are a lot of different ways that I tried to do this. I tried to use an RSS feed reader, right? Because Google has an RSS feed reader. And you just put in the feed that where you want to go draw the news. So in my case, for this instance, I'm using artificial intelligence as what I'm pulling. The problem is most of the links on Google redirect to, it's a Google link and it redirects to the original article. And the problem that I ran into that took me about an hour to figure out how to work around is that Google has some strict protections, and it doesn't automatically allow you to pass through the redirect to the original URL. And that, I think, is designed so that people can't do what I'm trying to do right now. But I found a workaround. And the workaround is this little node called SERP API. And it doesn't matter whether you are on a cloud hosting or whether you're hosting it natively on your computer or on some virtual private server. If you go to the side and you type in SERP, you're going to see the official SERP API. Now, you will probably have to install this if you've never used it before, but even if you're on a cloud account, you can install it. This app was actually made as part of a custom application that was not native to N8N. And so SERP worked with N8N to make this one of their official scraping tools. So in order to get access to this, all you have to do is just install it when you come in. And then you'll see, look at all of the things that I can do here. I can search Bondi, I can search Bing, I can search DuckDuckGo, I can search eBay, or let's see, I can search Google Flights or images or jobs or lights, literally anything. I can go to Google Maps and scrape information from that. It's an incredibly versatile tool, and it works like gangbusters. It's super easy. All you do is you come in here and you have to set up your SERP credential. And this is even one of the easiest setups I've ever done. So you come in here, you're going to create a new credential, and it's just going to ask you for an API key. And the way you get that is you go to serpapi.com and you sign in for an account. And as soon as you do, at the top of your account here on the left, you're going to see here in the middle that you have your API key. And this is the API key that you stick back in here. You drop it in there, you click save, and it connects up and you're done. Literally, it's that simple. Okay. Now, what else have we done in here? What we've also done is I've told it, hey, I want you to go out to Google News. I want the search query to be artificial intelligence, And then I've given it an additional field to say, I only want to search for news in the United States and stuff that's in English. I don't have to have United States. I could get rid of the country, but I definitely don't want to be pulling AI news articles from Bangladesh, right? Because I don't speak the language. So I just want English articles, and I've kind of restricted it to the US because what I'm trying to do with this is just give me ideas for post content that I can use. And so I don't need it, since I'm running this every day, I don't need a ton. Like, I don't need 100 articles. I just need 5 or 6 or 10 that I can pick from, that I can then go and use in my copy. Okay. So once we get done with this, what you're going to see, I keep going back into the node again. One of the things about the output is that SERP does not give you a very friendly output. So it kind of takes all of the search criteria and it compiles every single article that it pulled on artificial intelligence into one output, and it kind of compresses it all together. So as you'll see here, I ran the call, we got one item returned, and then I ran it through the Google News and I got one item returned. And that one item returned, I need to break out, and so I can get each individual article separately. And so to do that, I use a split into single articles. I use a split node. And all I've done here is I've selected where are the articles coming from. And in this case, the way Google does it is if you scroll down here on the left-hand side, you'll see news results and then news result 0. And then it gives you, this one's from Fox News. There's the icon. There's the link to the article right here. And then there's the date it was posted. And then we move on to the second one, and it gives Google News there. And you'll see with each one of these, it has a position 2, position 1. This is the ranking that Google uses as for the most liked videos, or sorry, the most liked articles. And so all I did was I started dragging these over. I said, first of all, we want to go with the news results. I want to pick up, let me open this up so you can see it. I can separate these out so it's easier for you to see. And I just started pulling out all of the information I wanted. I want the result title. I want the source name. I want to know what the link is to the original article. I want to know what the news result is and the date of the result. And then I want its position. I want to know how Google has ranked this video and that article. And that's important too, because if I pull in 100 articles, I don't want all 100. I want you to rank me the top 10. What's the most interesting thing today that people are talking about as it relates to AI news? And this is going to do that for me. And so I split it all out. And what you see is I go from one item on the input to 100 items on the output. So it's taken each one of those articles, has broken them up, and it found 100 of them. Perfect. Everything we've done so far has gotten us pretty close to now being able to organize that data in a usable way. The next thing I want to do is filter. So I don't want all 100 articles. I just want articles in the last 24 hours. So what I do is I come into my split and I find the date that it was posted, and I drag that into the first column here under conditions. And then I want to make sure that date is after the last 24 hours. So I take the date. Now, what time is it now? I tell in8n, hey, take it now minus 24 hours. So go back 24 hours and only pull stuff in the most 24 hours. And you can see we took 100 inputs and we ended up outputting 44 items and 44 were discarded. So now we're really starting to trim down the content that we're looking at. And again, we do all of this in advance because we don't want it. Once we start feeding things into an LLM, once we start using AI, it's going to burn through a lot of credits. So we want to do as much sifting and sorting at the beginning that we can in order to make sure that we're only using the AI for the really good stuff. Okay. Now, the next thing I needed to do was I needed to take those 44 and I just want the top 10. Remember the position that I talked about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only want the top 10 that have come out in the last 24 hours. And the easiest way I found to do this was just to write a code node. And as I said, you guys can either pause it and copy this if you want to, or you can come down and you can just grab the JSON code and steal this. But this works really well. And so now it takes those 44 items and it extracts the top 10. And you can see original position was 4. So this is not the number one thing being trending on Google right now, but it's the number one thing in the last 48 hours that I could pull. And so that's what we want to do. After that, we need to parse this page. So here's the thing. When I look at this data, it again doesn't give me really good information. I need to be able to extract the information on the page, because as you'll see, all I get is the link to the article. I don't actually get the content that's in the article, and I need that. And to do that, I'm going to use a service called Data for SEO. And if you self-host, you can go and get this. The way you do that is you come in. Let me just go back here. Come into here. Okay. Come back to your original area here at the beginning. Come down to the bottom. Go to settings. And then under settings, come down to community nodes. And the community node that you're looking for is N8N nodes data for SEO. And you just install that into, so you put that in right here, right? N8N nodes data for SEO, and then click install. If you don't self-host, you can still do this. You can do exactly the same thing. You just have to replace this node with an HTTP node. And you have to do an API call. And I didn't research the process to do that because this is way easier since I self-host. But all you need to do is go to Data for SEO right here and get yourself, go to dataforseo.com. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words here. And then once you're done, you can come in and do a little bit of research on their API calls to figure out how you can do an HTTP call. For me, since I'm self-hosted, it's real easy. I just grab my app ID, my API login, and my API password. And I just take that back here and I just pump it in. I just pump it in here, right? So got my API login and my API password. Pretty simple. And now we're set up. So now we're taking those 10 items, those 10 articles, and we're feeding them into this parser, and we're going to pull out all of the content inside of those articles. Now, the problem with this, again, one problem after another, and this is, can I just side note here and say, most of the building that you're doing with artificial intelligence is just problem solving. Like, it's never going to work right the first time. You're going to get stuff back that doesn't in the right order or doesn't kind of fit what you want. And your job is really to be a creative person and to come in and say, okay, how could I fix this? What might I be able to do? We're going to extract all of the content from this page and all of the information and parse out all the data. Now I need to extract from this data all that information that was in here. I need to extract just the author, the full content, the page source, and all of that stuff. And so I put in another code node here in order to be able to do that. And again, if you want, just go grab the JSON and you can plug it in. Okay. So now I've got 10 items. I've scraped all of the post content, so I know exactly what that was said, and I've organized it in a way that's going to give me the author, the date of the article, and the content that's in that article. The next step is to filter one more time. And what I found was when I ran this originally, there were a few of the articles that just didn't return anything. They didn't have a title, they didn't have any post content, and I don't know if the links didn't work or why that happened. So I just created another filter in here and I said, hey, inside of this extract article, if the content, the full content is not empty, then pass it along. If full content is empty, then leave it. I don't want it. And so this only pulls over the content that has an author, has a title, and has some full content here that we can actually use. Okay. So what have we done so far? Let's recap. We have scheduled on a trigger to run every 24 hours. We've scraped Google News for the latest AI. We've then split that out into individual articles rather than one big chunk of data. We've filtered it for the last 24 hours. We've gotten the top 10 articles ranked by Google for today. We've stripped out and found all of the content of that article, the text and information, and then we've extracted it into a format that we can use. And then we filtered it to eliminate any of the empty fields so that we don't have a bunch of stuff inside of our spreadsheet that doesn't have any data in it, right? Next, we need to format this information. And the way we do that is just by saying, all right, of all the information we've got, what do we really want because we want to add this stuff to a Google Sheet. And the stuff that I'm really concerned about here is the post content or the article content here. I want to know what the title of the article was so that I can really easily reference what am I reading? Because some of these are really long. So what is this particular piece of content about? And then when was the date? When was it created? And so all that stuff is put in here and itemized. And then I take all that information and I dump it into a Google Sheet. And this is what my Google Sheet looks like. It's just a table. It's got a title. It's got the article content, and it's got the date created. And I've got another column. I've got another sheet here at the bottom called new post content, which we'll get to in a minute. But you can see after we run this, we get exactly what we wanted. And again, sometimes we get some weird feedback here, but the bottom line is I have the content of the article, which is what's really important. And it looks like this was actually not in English. So that was one that the parser missed, or I'm sorry, that the scraper missed. But I have here 7 articles, 6 if you want to call it, if we eliminate this one, of potential posts that I can use for LinkedIn content today. Okay? The next step, so that's if all you do is that, okay? And you just do this section and plus, append the row to the sheet. What can we do with this? Well, we can use it for a lot of different things. We can just go in and look at it for ideas and start reading through some of these articles and write our own posts based on this content. We can read the articles and we can just keep up on the news. We can do a little bit more research and just find out what kind of the hottest topics are and then go out and do a little bit more research on them. There's a ton of stuff we can do with this information. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to actually generate some original post content, and that's what this second section is about. Okay, so at this point, you may be feeling a little overwhelmed at the realization that this whole AI agent thing isn't quite as easy as you thought it would be. Well, I got some good news for you. It can be. You see, the engineering team at Motion has spent years designing the most useful work tool for the 21st century. And they already have AI agents, exactly like the one I'm showing you, built directly into their platform that their engineering team can customize to fit your company's unique needs. So if you want a simple and friction-free way to add AI agents to your business, click on the link in the description for a free trial to test Motion out for yourself. And for everyone else, let's get back to the episode. So let's jump into the second half of this workflow. The next thing I need is I have now in this Google Sheet, as I said before, we have 7 usable articles that we can use. And what I want to do is run them through a series of AI agents to help me come up with original content. And if you've watched my other stuff, you may recognize these because I use them really frequently when generating original content. But before I run them through, I need to create what's called a loop over items node. If you're not familiar with this, it can be a little intimidating. So if I go to loop over node and I just loop over items and I pull this out, it looks like this originally. And you're kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Well, for the sake of time, just delete this. Delete the end node, and you're left with this. And this is what we really care about. What we're going to do is we're going to tell N8N, I want you to take the first row right here, and I want you to feed that in first. And I want you to run through this entire process for just that first row. And then once you're done with that row, I want you to go back and I want you to get the second row. And I want you to do the same thing for the second row. So we're just looping over all of the content in each one of these rows line by line until it's completely done and there's no more content. And after that, the loop over will stop, and this for this workflow, it'll all be finished. So we're going to take that first item and we're going to feed it into into an AI that's going to search the internet. So this is what I'm really trying to do is I don't want to just take the original article and then have it write me a post about that article. I want it to go out and look for other content, other articles, other information related to that article, and create me an outline of the summary of 3 different articles that are related to, or 3 different news sources that are related to this article that I pulled in. Okay. And that's what this does. So if we take a look, we have a user prompt and a system prompt. And the user prompt, and by the way, I'm using 4.0 mini search preview for this. And that's designed specifically to go out and search the internet. It says, you're a helpful, intelligent research assistant who searches online for things related to the content of a recent news article, and then I feed it the news article. So there's the entire news article. So I want you to go out and find me other content related to this. And then in the system prompt, I give it some very detailed instructions on what I'm looking for. You are deployed in a workflow where the user wants new article analyzed and contextually expand upon with additional relatable content. And so I tell it in here, I want you to go find 3 other news sources, information, and then create summaries of each one of those as well. So what I'm going to end up with is the original article and 3 other summaries of information related to that article. And then I give it a bunch of information here, and then I give it some examples of the outputs and what the outputs should look like. And all you got to do if you want this thing, as I keep saying that, just go steal it. Go grab the JSON. Okay? And that's exactly what this does. So when we pass it through, it takes the original article and it comes up with 3 different links to articles. This one's from AP News, this one's from Lemonade, and this one's from the government. It's a government website. And then it creates an outline of all of those sources. Right? Now we're going to pass it on to a second AI. And we're going to say, okay, this time I want you to take the original news article and the outline for that, the original news article and the summary of the other 3 sources that you had, and I want you to compile them all into a brand new summary. And so again, we have a user prompt and we have a system prompt. And I come in here and I say, here's the original news article, and then here is the source summary, and that just came from right here. And the original news article comes from the loop over node, because I want to make sure that when I'm pulling this, that it knows exactly which article I'm referencing. So I have to use the loop over node in order to do that. I pull the article from here, okay? Otherwise, what happens is if you try and go back to the Google Sheet, it'll say, well, I don't know which one of these articles you're referencing. So we want it to know that it's the one we've been working on in the loop over node, okay? And then what it produces me is another outline. So this outline contains all of the original article information and the summary of all the other news sources that we pulled from, and it smashes it together for a full outline of everything. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to say, okay, I want you to now take this new outline that was just created with all that information, and I want you to write me a new blog post for LinkedIn based on this information. And in order to do that, again, we just take the content outline that we just generated, we pump it into here for our user prompt. And then for our system prompt, again, I say this every time I do videos, this is where the magic happens. I had to write and rewrite and play around with this system prompt a lot. Because originally when I created it, it was taking a news article summary and outline, and it was creating what read like just another news article. And I didn't want it to be a news article. I wanted it to really position me as someone of authority and to talk about authority-related stuff when I posted it, right? So to talk about it from the position of an expert who is giving opinion and information about this news summary, this event that's happening, something that's really valuable to read and would be different than what they would read if they just read the news articles, okay? And what happened was, initially when I ran it, was it started hallucinating. And it would make up stories about me. And it would say, hey, this really happened. We've had some problems. AI is disrupting supply chains, XYZ. And I know about this because I worked for 28 years in supply chain management. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never done anything in supply chain management. And so I had to come in and work with an AI assistant to rewrite these and to put in some very critical things that I do and don't want. And then I give it, again, examples of bad inputs versus good inputs. And then at the very end, I always give it some final notes. And these final notes are, so again, let me see if there's one in here. Now, I didn't do it for this one, but sometimes I will take some of these up here, some of these constraints, these do's and don'ts, and if they're really, really important to me, I go ahead and put them into the final notes as well, because this is the last thing that the AI reads and will remember. And you would think, with all the hype around AI agents and AI, that it would remember every single thing that you write inside of this prompt. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Lots of times you will write things in here like don't use hyphens ever, because that's one of the things that will really make your content seem like it was AI generated. Another thing is it asks stupid questions. So it'll ask questions like rhetorical questions, right? Always use direct declarative sentences, never rhetorical questions. It'll say, so what does this mean for us? Question mark. And then it continues on to answer its own question. Those are real clear signals that you've written something with AI and it's not human led. And so I did my best inside of this system prompt to eliminate those. Now, they're still not all gone. It still just refuses to not use hyphens in many cases, but I managed to get most of the rhetorical questions out of that. And if that's as far as I get with it, that's fine, because I can always come back in and remove the hyphens and replace them with commas. Okay? So once we get done with this, we outpost the post body, and here's the new piece of content that was just generated. And if we go into the JSON, you can actually read the entire thing here. So that's it. We loop over all 7 items. First, we read the article post, and then we go out and find 3 other pieces of content, and we create a summary of those 3 pieces of content. Then we take the summary of that content and the original article, and we compile a new outline. Then we send that over to the final agent, and that agent reads that outline and creates an original post for LinkedIn based on that information. And then the last thing that we have to do is we just have to add it to the Google Sheet. And as you'll see here, we come back here over to new post content. I have 7 articles here written in English. I didn't even got the second one. I got the one that was all goofy and that I couldn't even understand. It ended up getting that and translating it into English on an output. So it actually worked pretty good. So again, taking a look at this, what can we do with this now? Well, I just pulled the first one, and it says, I'll just read it kind of. AI is reshaping society, but without careful regulation, the risk to children and to local authorities are growing fast. A recent fight over proposed federal moratorium, on state-level AI laws heightens the stakes. Now, this again is still reading a little like a news article, and I don't want that, but it gives me an idea. It gives me an angle to work from. And I'm like, you know what? I've been talking with my kids about AI, and I've been concerned, just like I am with them being on the internet and all the things that they're exposed to there. I'm a little concerned about the risk of AI and all of the crazy things that are happening with that. And so what I did was I just took all of this information that they'd compiled, and I went over to LinkedIn and I wrote a post. So originally what I did was I copied and pasted this entire thing into my post. And then what I did was I just went in and rewrote it and added kind of like my own perspective. I reworded it a little bit to make it sound more human, and also to make it really make it more valuable, I think, to the reader. And this is what I came up with. AI is reshaping society, and the risk to our kids is growing. Big tech lobbies want uniformed rules at the expense of state power to protect their communities. If history is any guide, creating uniform rules over tech companies can have serious consequences. Take Section 230, the federal law in 1996 that protected platforms from legal liability at the cost of their users. AI is now accelerating. It gave tech companies nearly total immunity from prosecution and handcuffed states from acting on issues like child abuse. AI is now accelerating these risks. The risk of AI-generated child sexual abuse material, deepfake scams, and predatory chatbots is stretching law enforcement and legal systems past their limits. State and global regulators are trying to respond, but they're being met with legal and constitutional battles over privacy and free speech. It's time to invest in strong child safety, compliance, and ethical frameworks that go beyond minimum requirements. Proactive action from each of us is the only way to ensure our kids are safe as they learn to use these new technologies. And so again, the concept, the idea of the post was there. The information that I needed in order to craft something unique was there. And I would say that this got me about 70 or 80% of the way there. The rest of it was just me rewriting this thing, and it took me about maybe 5 minutes or less to rewrite this thing into something that was really in my own voice. And so, again, this is great. The last thing I want to show you is this image. I actually didn't create this image. I didn't find it. I had AI create it. And I was testing out a new tool. Actually, I don't know if this is new or not. I just found out about it. But it's called Krea AI. And I just set up a free account, and they give you some free credits every single day. And I ran through some iterations. And what I ended up putting into I want to create an image. And you can see originally I fed in the entire post, and I said, hey, create me an image that reflects the content of this post. And it gave me some real garbage in terms of its output. But the second iteration I went through was, I said, generate me an image that represents the risk of AI on children. And then I got these 4 images, and I thought, oh, that's a little scary. That's a little scroll stopping. So I ended up grabbing this image and putting it into the article. Now we'll see how well it performs. Like I said, I just posted it a few minutes ago, right before I started this, because I was testing the workflow to make sure everything worked right. But this now gives me, every day I'm going to have 8 to 10 new articles that I have to choose from. And I can just scroll through and give them a quick read and pick the one that I think is going to have the highest impact for my audience on that particular day. So again, I hope you found this valuable. Please like and share.